when your prospect calls, when your prospect ghosts you, and you need to know how to get in touch. Ghostbusters! I know, I'm being lame. But seriously, the prospect set an appointment, they ditch you, they ain't showing up, they're skipping it. How do you get these people to actually show up and stop ghosting you? Well, Steven Schneider is going to tell us his strategy. They're doing some interesting thing internally, and I feel that no matter what business you're in, you could adopt the principles from this conversation and become a Ghostbuster. Play that Ghostbuster theme song. Dun, 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 dun. See you on the episode. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald C. Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. And I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And on this episode, I have one and only Steven Schneider. Now, Steven runs an agency, and they work a lot with helping organizations when it comes to SEO. But one of the things that Steven also has done is that he's been just going, him and his team going deep into sales. And the other part in particular is that they've sold and worked with and developed 8-figure companies. I've worked with over 50 websites that they've been able to turn, companies that they've been able to turn into money generation tools. And this episode is different. It's not just like things that the individual contributor you can do. This is what we can do as an organization and practices and standards that we can set to help us to make sure that we are not getting ghosted. If this is your first time listening to our podcast, go ahead and subscribe, and I'll make sure to notify you every time we drop a new piece of content. Now, if you've been a long-time listener and you've never called in, don't worry, we don't do call-in, but go ahead and connect with me on LinkedIn and tell me what you like about the show. I'd appreciate that. We have a mastermind that we're launching later this summer, and it's called TSE Mastermind. Very unique, right? But the idea behind these mastermind is where you can come together, work with other sales professionals, get help and get coaching guidance every single week, and that's what we want to do. If you're interested, go to thesalesevangelist.com/mastermind. Now, also, I want to make sure that we are on the same page as we dive into this content. Steven is going to be able to go through the challenge that he's facing, how they tackle it, tools they're using, and then also some of the things that you can do to start this off on your own. So now we're on the same page. Let's go listen to it. Steven, welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going, Donald? Happy to be here.
I'm excited for this convo. One of the things we touched based on one of our episodes recently is about ghosting. It just happens, right? You could do as much prep, you could do your thing, but somehow things come up, or maybe some folks are shopping around, maybe they're referrals. But I want to get your take on that, how you and your team are tackling ghosting. And I know you're doing some experiments. I know you're trying some different tools. You even created an agent, from what I heard, like a chatbot agent. I want to just know as much as we can so that it can help us out, whether we're individual sellers or sales leaders, with ghosting. But talk to me a little bit about just what are some of your feelings initially, why people ghost? Is it because they're just being jerks, or what are sort of your
Of
reasons?
course. I mean, no, they're never the problem. It's never on their fault. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, there's always going to be people who are shopping around, and for whatever reason they have, their answer, or they have a decision made somewhere else in the pipeline. It could also be that people are busy. I am very low priority when it comes to 999 other things that they have to do on a daily and weekly basis. So
Yeah.
Who knows? I think the main thing is trying to understand what is the pain point that they originally reached out to me, or what did they actually start this process around, and how do you just really dive into that and just continue to scratch that itch is kind of how I've been looking at it.
Are most of the ghosting coming from like leads that you're paid leads, search leads, or is this just like a referral, or your team outreach? Like, where do you find that most of your ghosting come from?
It doesn't happen too often, but it happens enough to where I want to make sure it doesn't happen less and less. It can be, we've had referrals that ghost, and I think that everyone knows referrals are astronomically high close rates because you already have the trust built in, and then for whatever reason they ghost. And I'm like, damn, that was thought that was for sure.
Yeah.
Other times it could be someone who is very, very cold, and that would make sense. Or we might have a meeting and go through steps 1 through 8, and me trying to get through 8 to 10 to close. That's where they ghost. So for whatever reason, it's hard, but I feel like that's if you can hack that and figure out that little piece of the puzzle, I mean, that's where all the magic happens in terms of improving close rates, improving trust, communication, psychology. I mean, that's the name of the game, at least how I look at it.
And you see, typically, again, sellers will listen to this and they'll think like, stuff that I can do alone. But every time I've come to recognize ghosting challenge, and if the seller goes at it alone, I think they only get so much. This has to
Yeah.
be a tap in with marketing and with organizational philosophy. Because as you're sharing this stuff with me, there's it's not just symptom. They didn't just like the way my breath smells, so therefore they didn't come. I mean, it's all virtual. It's
Right.
just that there's multiple other situations that could cause that to happen. But I
Yeah.
want you to walk me through it as far as what you and your team started to do. As again, it's not happening every single all the time, but it's happened
Yeah.
enough that you're annoyed by it. What did you guys start to do? Just walk me through that
Yeah.
to fix that.
So just as like a preface, I always try to treat every client almost as a unique case study to learn something new. So if I'm testing something, I will try to keep things in a vacuum. So for example, like if there's a client who I think has a really good opportunity to close, like I think we'd crush it for them, but for whatever reason they've lost interest or disengaged, I will pull up their website on Ahrefs and take a look at the traffic and try to figure out where their traffic has dipped or maybe a keyword that an SEO wise has lost value and make sure that it's really tied to revenue. And I'll be like, hey, did you know that you guys were ranking first for this and you just moved to fifth? Like, doesn't this keyword drive a bunch of money for you? Like, wouldn't it be great if you were ranking first again? And then I'll just
Yeah,
send them a screenshot of that. And the next line would be, just in case you missed it or for quick reference, here's that proposal I sent over last week. And then link that proposal there. So it's like address pain point, dig into the fact that, hey, you're losing business as a result of not working with us. Remember that proposal I sent you? Here it is. Click. So trying to just think about where did this conversation start and how do we keep touching on that continuously. So that's one of them, but that has been working well. Screenshots, looms, just getting more personal.
and the good thing about this is someone that has done. They came in, they were interested at one point.
Yep.
You gave them information, but now they are ghosting. Going back to that, I really like that one a lot. We did a campaign once with a partner company, and we had gotten a bunch of these leads, and I think that's one of the things that was it was a while back, that was a factor for us. We just did not do an effective follow up to them. There wasn't enough pain in that follow up. It was just
Yeah.
kind of like, hey, well, you missed a meeting or something dumb like that. But it didn't give like
Yeah.
what they want, what the information that we pulled from that disco initially.
Yeah, exactly. Because at the end of the day, I mean, they originally reached out to us as an SEO agency because they either have bad traffic, they have a bad website, or they think that there's potential upside in leveraging what we do. And so part of the meetings that I've just gotten really good at is asking a bunch of questions. I mean, like, what's currently working for you? What's not working for you? How do you define success? I mean, it's so easy for people to jump on calls and say, what is the ROI of SEO? Like, how am I going to see an
Mm,
ROI of this sort of stuff? Like, how do you guys track results and how am I going to get it? And then I just flip the script and I said, well, how are you guys currently tracking success on your website? And everyone just freezes and they can't answer the question. And it's like, okay, well, let's start there. Like, if you don't know what defines success, don't you think it'd be pretty hard for us to define success in a vacuum by ourselves?
yeah,
And then they don't know what to say. And so I'm like, okay, well, what currently makes you money? Is it your demos? Is it your free trial signups? And so I'm kind of just trying to work backwards and help them figure out what they already knew or what they're trying to figure out by just asking us.
yeah,
And then I'll pull up their site and I'll screen share with them and I'll just show them everything that's wrong. And I'm like, did you know that this was wrong and this was wrong? And like, that's helped me even close a couple leads. In the middle, I'll have like a presentation and I'll pull up their website. And did you know that like your contact form is going to a dead end? Like, I bet that's probably stopping a lot of business on your guys' side, huh? And like their entire team just melts and they have no idea. And they're just like, oh my God, like, why is this not figured out? Like, and you can tell like I just stirred the pot internally. Like, their Slack channel's probably blowing up. But
somebody
like,
getting fired.
oh, exactly. But like that sort of stuff just like crushes on a sales call.
I like this. What about when it comes to people who are, let's say it's a first time lead that's coming over that you may not necessarily have had a conversation with? How are you guys tackling that one?
I think that in terms of trying to figure out where they are, like we always have forms that we'll fill out that they can't even like get our contact information if they don't do some sort of qualification. So based on how they figure out our questions is kind of how we will score them. You know, if they put their budget as super low, that's not really worth us chasing. If it's a
Yeah.
super high qualified lead, then and we can go look at their website, we know that like this is our exact ideal customer. Like I'm going to hound them and figure out. But usually, if people kind of get through steps 0 to 2, and we can jump on a call, or like we have a free audit that we would offer. Like people are always want to know what their audit is, and then they don't get the audit unless they come to the meeting. But what I do is I take a screenshot of their scorecard in the audit and say like, hey, did you know that you just failed 5 out of the 6 categories? Like, you want to see what you failed? Show up at the meeting next Tuesday. So it's like trying to give them a little bit of FOMO, a little bit of pain, a little bit of, oh my God, like my site's going to crash and burn if I don't meet with these guys. Like, try to just, sounds really bad to say, but like make them feel like it's the end of the world if you don't meet with them.
So let me back up. The person submitted a form. The lead comes in. They may ghost me, but before they're ghosting, the preemptive measure is giving them some kind of, people say give them value, but this is actually you're giving them some kind of fix, like true value, before they even come on a call. Look for a meeting with you. Notice this: there was an audit. We did an audit. Did you know XYZ, like you just said, wasn't working or breaking? Um,
Mm-hmm.
when we jump on a call next week or on Friday, I'm going to go through that and I'll show you how they can fix it or whatever. But the point is, this is incentivizing them to come to a lead, come to the appointment, as opposed to the 3 SEO companies that reach out to agencies. They're sending me like Calendly reminders as the follow up, but you're sending me not only those, but you're sending me information why I should come, proving your
Yeah,
worth prior to
exactly.
that call.
Yeah, because
Okay.
like we have the so our like we do a free audit or complimentary audit as kind
Yeah.
of our primary lead magnet, and people will sign up for that, and either they just want the audit and they have no intention of sales, and we're pretty good at vetting that out, or like we even have like a book your audit review call immediately after signing up, so it's like just automatically redirects the second calendar. It's like book a meeting from a meeting, even though the meeting hasn't happened yet, and then
Yeah.
as we're kind of leading up to that meeting, then we have to really focus on show up rates. Like that's kind of the next hoop that we have to jump through. And so, in order to kind of improve show up rates, we'll give them a snippet of what they're actually there to see because they know they don't get the full thing unless they show up. So it's like, hey, just want to let you know, like our team is on track. Audit is done. Here's what we found. Here's the actual rubric. We're going to dive into every single component of this on the call. So please be sure to show up and be on time. And then, like, that will just help them confirm the meeting. Yes, I'm ready to go, blah, 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 blah. And then we kind of see it go from there.
So it's kind of like a reminder. Um, so you have
It's
the
a
initial thing.
reminder, it's a qualification, it's a confirmation. Um, it's also like the FOMO fear of, what could actually go wrong. Like, oh my God, like I can't miss this meeting.
Is there something that the individual seller can do as well? Because I think this is a cohesive approach where the department, the revenue department, sales and marketing needs to be aligned on that. What is there something that I could do or that you've tried that the individual seller does to help with that?
Yeah, so one of the things I would say too is like if you have a complimentary case study or something that would show a what success looks like as that person's going through the process. So like if I'm going to follow up and say, hey, just a reminder, like looking forward to our meeting on Thursday, just call this emailing to confirm your meeting. By the way, here's a case study of somebody in the same industry that we've crushed it for recently. Like take a look and see how many leads they're getting per month. Like, wouldn't you want the same thing? And kind of like pitch it in a way where it's like, here's more value, here's proof of concept, success, and by the way, I'll see you on Thursday. So like that's kind of another trick that we've been using.
So the again, case study is another form of, these are proven method. Go back to what we were talking about earlier. Why would somebody not show to this call? Again, it could be they, for a plethora of reasons, but you're just can emphasizing more credibility and more purpose
Yeah.
why they should not meet. To make it a
Yeah. Like
priority.
I had a guy the other day I was talking to on LinkedIn, and I said, "Hey, where are we at?" And I also like I've just learned over time that I don't like to be pushy, but if you can just be a
Mm,
little more pushy and a little more direct, like that helps a lot too. So if somebody's like pulling me along and really just like wasting my time, one of my new favorite things I'll say to them is like, "Hey, are you actually like serious in this? Because if not, like I have other people in line, and like I'm not trying to be rude, like I wouldn't say this directly, but like something that's more along the lines of if you are not interested, please let me know so I can stop bugging you and I can move on to the next person." And that usually gets a reply pretty quickly because they're like,
wow.
oh crap, like I've left this hanging. And I usually just use the line like, if you're not interested, let me know so I can stop bugging you, or else I'm going to keep following up. It's
Yeah.
like, so that works well. But yeah, I mean, I had a guy I was talking to on LinkedIn, and essentially the same conversation, it's kind of like if and that. And he said, well, one of the reservations I have is that you guys have only been your company's only been around for a year and a half. And I said, well, did you know that we've been owning and selling businesses of our own for 10 years? I said, here's a case study of how my partners sold their last company for 8 figures, and just kind of sent him the case study. And then that immediately just closed down all apprehension and reservations on that department. So I was like, okay, like, yeah, we've only been in live in the agency world for a year and a half, but I built 50 sites and generated like millions in SEO. Like, this isn't our first rodeo, my guy. Like, come on, like, let's jump on
Yeah.
a call.
And that's where that I think that gives because it's a risk, right? Most people are looking at it. Am I going to be? What's
Yeah.
am I taking on a risk going with this particular company or with this prospect,
Yeah.
with this organization? And in this situation, clearly, there is a risk no matter what you do. But you
Yeah.
guys have mitigated that risk just showing the proof in the pudding beforehand.
Yeah. There's always risk. I mean,
Yeah.
life comes with risk, and that's kind of what I always tell them too. I had the same exact conversation with another lead that we actually just closed last week, and he was explaining that he has a lot of personal commitments to this business, and it was a very touchy thing. And I just straight up told him, I said, hey, like this is a very unique case because you have a lot of extra emotional baggage tied to this decision. I'm not going to sell you something you don't want unless you're 100% committed to what we're actually going to do. So if you're not committed, this probably isn't going to work. And then that kind of like got him in gear because he's like trying to decide. And like, I think people just you just have to tell them how it is. And that's kind of how I've been changing my stance on a lot of those conversations.
Love it. Um, the other part to this too, I'm looking at it from what tools are you utilizing? You mentioned when we first connected that there are tools that you might utilize in this process. Can you share some of those as you're doing your um, anti-ghosting?
Yeah, I've started using Better Proposals. It's a software for creating proposals, sending them out. It's also connected with Stripe. That was another kind of thing that we overhauled recently was our entire proposal software system. So just how it's formatted, people can e-sign right there. It reroutes them to Stripe. We also changed our deposit slash um, like onboarding fee adjustment as part of the sales process. So that was great. Helped us kind of improve a lot of that. Other thing I'm using is just ChatGPT, and I have a custom agent to like really help me dive into all aspects of replies or processes or SOPs or tones and messaging, slide decks. The list goes on.
Talk to me about that agent. Like, how did you go about creating that? Was that something easy to do, or what do I need to know if I want to replicate that?
Yeah, so I'm a huge Alex Hermosi fan, and, and I eat up his content. And so what I did is I pretty much created a Alex Hermosi agent that is everything he would know or act or say and his entire ideology, etc. And then I uploaded probably 10 or 15 SOPs from our company and case studies and do's and don'ts and best practices, etc., pricing models, everything you could imagine. And then I merged the two essentially and said, like, act as if you are Alex Hermosi consultant on our behalf. You know everything about our company. You know the ins and outs, every single thing that you would ever need to be successful. And I will ask you questions in order to refine our process. So I pretty much spent like one weekend building that out. overhauled our entire slide deck, all of our follow-ups, all of our cold outreach messages, like funnels, everything.
And then, so how did that work?
So it's been crushing. I mean, just being able to put, because I mean, like, you don't know what you don't know. And so, like,
Of
from
course.
my point of view, I've only been learning sales for 6 months, but it's literally all I've done for 6 months. And so I feel like I've been able to get there, but I mean, always having an assistant is going to be better. And so I can like pitch ideas back and forth, or, if I throw something across to the agent and I'm like, help me refine this, and it comes out way more pain point focused or way more assertive to what they're actually looking for and how to speak to them and like what cares about most, like guarantees, how to format those. Like it kind of just acts as a soundboard, and I'm not always going to take it immediately, but even like little subtext version like on a slide deck, it's like making sure that it really hits home on like, what are we doing, what are you getting out of this process, selling the vacation, what is your ideal outcome at the end of this, like how do you really kind of paint the picture that says like, this is exactly what you're going to get, and here's exactly what we do, and here's how we get you from A to Z, and making sure that there's zero miscommunications throughout that entire process, essentially.
If there's a sales leader listening to this and she or he are thinking, I really want to get something, I get this. I just don't know where to start. I want to do something with our team. What's the first step? Like, how would you get them to start with creating their own anti-ghosting platform, anti-ghosting process? That's what I'm calling it, making it up now.
Yeah, I think the main thing is to think about like what has worked successfully in the past. And if you don't know that, that's the first thing to start tracking is you have to be able to change one little thing in different experiments and see how that performs. So if you've never sent a Loom video trying to follow up, do that. Also, the other thing is like if you're constantly following up in the same thread, that thread now becomes just like a blind email to them. Follow up in a new thread with a new subject line. Make sure that subject line is very clickbaity. Like the one I used was, "Hey, I just saw this on your site." ... Like you're always going to click that if you care about your website. So making sure that it's very, very methodical and how are you actually going about it. But if you're just doing the same thing over and over again, you're going to get the same results. So I would say just go out about it from a experimental standpoint rather than a do or die standpoint. I think that's kind of where sales gets blurry, is when people are just so focused on getting the result instead of focus on the experimentation, and the experimentation will
Yeah.
inherently drive results.
If there's one, if folks want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to get connected with you? If they're curious about your agency or curious about this process, they can double tap on talking to you about it. How do they do that?
Yeah, you can reach me on LinkedIn, super active there. I post daily content. But website also, TrioSEO.com. And you can just hit me up. I'm always happy to have coffee talks, network, whatever. I'm just a huge networking fan. So always happy to meet other folks.
Love it, man. Well, Steven, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show today. Appreciate your insights. And I think we're now going to call you Ghostbusters. So
I'll take it.
Appreciate it, man.
Awesome. Thanks.
That was Steven Schneider. Listen, if you haven't done so already, go ahead and connect with him. You can find him on LinkedIn. Tell him that you heard him here on the Sales Evangelist podcast. Again, Steven Schneider on the Sales Evangelist podcast. I feel that there's more that we can do as organizations to tackle the ghosting issue. We can fix this. We can make it better, but it requires us to be diligent in our efforts, and we have to experiment. No one's going to get it right in the first place. It's going to be a risk, but test it out. Try some of the things that he shared, and there's simple stuff that you can do. Even if you work in an organization that you don't necessarily have marketing on the same page, or it's a big organization, do some of the things that he shared here, and that will be able to help you get an understanding of the pain, send a message reminder to them, give them some kind of value add that makes them want to come to that meeting, and that can help. As always, I want you to thrive. I want you to succeed. If you want to get some more detailed help like this, you might check out our mastermind, thesalesevangelist.com/mastermind, or just send us a message on LinkedIn. Send me a message on LinkedIn. Again, I want you to thrive. I want you to succeed. I want you to raise the level of thinking. But most importantly, I want you to go out and do big things. See you on the next one.